Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we're back with another installment of Tales from the Bank. You know, I deal a lot with banking products, both in real life and on the internet. So every so often we get a good story to share with the gang. This time around, we're talking about how bank promotion hunting, yes, bank account bonus hunting, actually almost cost me a mortgage application. It's not hyperbole, it's not clickbait. I will walk you through all of it so you know what to do, especially if you're an aggressive bonus hunter of the game. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. So if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for joining. We primarily talk about credit cards on this main channel, but I also am a really good, it kind of sounds arrogant to say, I'm a pretty good bonus hunter, bank account promotional hunter. We have Run on the Bank, which is the second channel dedicated to bank promotions. We have profitablecontent.com, which is a website also dedicated to bank promotions. I open about 50 accounts a year, give or take, in the pursuit of making $10,000 off these deposit and brokerage account bonuses. And I've been doing this for a few years now, no big deal. Well, this past February, I actually sat down to get a new mortgage. It'd be my third mortgage, 2 now rentals. This is the place I live and work out of now, where we're sitting now, the new headquarters of Profitable Content. And, everything was all fine and good, but my bonus hunting actually came into play. And it was a roadblock, to say the least, a hurdle we had to clear. I'm going to walk you through that now. So again, people don't understand, credit cards, you would think as many as I've applied for. I think I've applied for 18 cards through the end of July 2024, and I've never had any issues getting a mortgage, anything like that. And in bank promotion land, your credit rarely comes into play. And you would think if you follow along the bank promotion game, it'd be something about check systems. Check systems is basically your credit report for bank accounts. It just monitors how many you've opened, if you close any derogatory marks, things like that. But check systems actually has nothing to do with it because credit products don't care about your check system. Could they pull it? Probably. I've never had it come up. So it's not check system. It's not what you think it is. So let's walk through this here. What it is, to tell you so we don't play the suspense game, it became an issue with the down payment. So when you go through a mortgage, in case you haven't done this before, there's a few, we used to call them your vitals, right? The main thing is going to be credit. Credit qualifies you. That proves, despite what the new interpretation of credit, it's never meant how good you are with money. It measures credit worthiness. Are you someone we want to lend money to, right? I'm not one of those people that think FICO score is a scam. We changed the meaning of it. It's a bit of a side tangent, but credit, they pull your credit report, credit score. That proves, are you worthy to lend credit to? Then you have your debt to income ratio, which is pretty much simple. How much money do you make versus how much do you have in monthly expenses, right? Your debt to income ratio, that's going to mean, do you have a job, basically, and that thing, do you owe too much money? And then the third, the biggest piece, besides finding the places and things like that, is down payment, right? You can't buy these things on 0%. You can go FHA, which is, what I did. There's absolutely nothing wrong with FHA loans, which is like 3%, 3.5% down, but you have to have money to put down. They don't let you do 0%. The VA, I think, will let you actually do over 100% loan, but that's a whole nother thing, right? For our purposes, you got to put something down. So the down payment came into question here. How did that happen? Well, when they ask you for anything you provide them has to be provided by proof with documentation, right? It's not like a credit card, which you're used to here, where credit cards like, give me stated income. How much does your business make? How much do you make? And then they have like a calculation on the back end that adjusts for people just estimating, even if you're not ill intent, you're just estimating, right? So they have calculations for that. But in mortgage, everything has to be documented. It's not stated income. It's give me your W-2s, give me your tax returns. So when you get to how much money do you have for down payment, they're going to ask you, and at some point they're saying, give me proof of funds. Proof of funds is generally bank statements. And the rule about funds is you have to have like a 60-day history on them, which really means you can't just take $10,000, shove it into the bank, and turn around and give them a bank statement. They're obviously not going to take cash. It has to be, some money in the bank, so they have documentation and a paper trail. So it's be 60 days, and they're trying to protect against money laundering, things like that, because it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world for someone to just buy a house with cash and do things like that, right? So, anyways, bank promotions, back to those. often work as if you're sending large amounts of money to some banks for a certain amount of time. They pay you, then you move it on to the next one. So I don't know, I think I need $25,000 or something. I can't remember exactly, but anyhow, I have had 25 grand because I knew I was going to do this, but I had been ping ponging it back and forth between different banks. So when you get around to providing them the bank statements, I think I provided them one. I had moved the money to Ally, and I moved it to Ally. You provide them the bank statements, but the problem is the bank statement shows that the money came from another bank, and it hadn't been a full 60 days. So fine, I'll go pull that bank statement. But now they can see that they're starting to see the trail of this money hopping around, and it just makes them nervous. So if you're an underwriter, you don't personally give crap about any of this, right? You're just trying to make it not your fault, and the government makes this the rule, so it's the rule. You have to show it a 60-day paper trail of this. So that's not on its own. It's not really big of a deal. The problem is that I had moved this money from a bank called North Point Bank that we talked about last year. I know we did a video on it, and that they paid out. I moved the money back, and then as I always do, I closed the account. And so they're like, now you got to get a statement from North Point. They thought North Point was the origination point of the bank, or it was like a gap, basically. It was like, I gave them an Ally statement, but you could see the money coming from North Point. They're like, okay, well, how did the money get to North Point? Well, it had come from, I don't know, some other bank, right? And I think probably Ally. So anyhow, you call up North Point, you're like, hey, I'm not an existing customer. I was a customer. I need some bank statements because some banks, when they close your account, they just close the account. They leave your profile open. Some just close you outright altogether. North Point closed me outright altogether. So I phone up. I'm like, I know this isn't going to work. I knew it wasn't going to work as soon as, because one, why would they care? But number two, you talk to the customer service person and like, well, if you ever seen a fee for like account research on a fee schedule, account research is finding things like this. But they're like, well, you're not a customer, so we don't have a way to charge you. It's like $5 for account research, so I'll just send it over to them, and they'll just do it for you. I was like, well, can you take a debit card? Can you take a credit card? Like, no, I can't. I'll just send it over there. I was like, okay, do you have a reference number? No. Ticket number? No. And as soon as they said they didn't have any number or any way to track this, I knew they weren't going to do it, because you don't know how that request was written up. It could be sent to account research, and if it's not fully explained, then the account research department could look at it and be like, well, there's no non-existing customer, no way to charge this person, close request. So never got the documents from North Point. Never thought I would. Now, when you go back to talking to the mortgage company, they're trained to push off excuses, even the most sound reasons. I explained them. They knew I had the YouTube thing. That was on the documentation and stuff. I'm like, hey, look, I closed the account. Do you want to? I'll conference you in if you want. You can sit there quietly. You can hear me do it. Whatever. They're trained to push off a lot of this stuff because people generally make excuses and try to dodge requirements and conditions and things like that. So I get it, but like it wasn't going to happen. Now, long story. Like, could you have probably found a way around it if it really came down to it? Yeah, they probably could have. But you really don't want to have to do that. So long story short, what I ended up doing was they could count some of the money, just not all of the money. So I happened to have 15, I think, grand sitting in a PNC business account. So I pulled the documents from that, statements from that, sent it to them, and told them, hey, you can look up at LARA, which is Licensing and Regulatory Affairs for the state of Michigan, and you can see who owns Profitable Content LLC. I do. That'll be enough. Could I have sent them that documentation? Sure, but I was kind of annoyed, so they can look it up themselves. In addition to the PNC move, there's also, sometimes there's a delay in between moving money and the bank printing a new statement. So I had to go to another bank account. I don't remember which one it was. And even though, let's say I had 10 grand in there, and I had moved most of that money out to another bank for another bonus, the new statement hadn't posted yet. So if I went to the most recent statement, it would have shown I had 10 grand in there. So I grabbed that statement and added it to the PNC one. And then, that got me a new combined total of, clean money, so to speak, that they could use. But I definitely had to, think about it a while and look around to make that one work. And that got it done, right? So in the end, it was fine, but it's kind of funny to have down payments usually a hurdle for a lot of people, rightfully so. And you're like, nah, I got like 50, $1,000 total, and I just can't use all of it. Now it's somewhat silly because there's nothing really stopping you from still using that money that they were concerned about to close on, right? They don't actually track it all the way through to make sure it was the money from PNC, not the money from North Point, right? It's just like, well, we knew 25 of your grands has been certified, so, you're good. It's not, they can only go so far. But all that to say, that was a bit of a pain to get done. And I'm also someone who I don't like to provide. I know what you're looking for sometimes, but I think when you deal with banks, it's best to answer in the yes, no. Don't provide a ton of details. It's also best to provide as little documentation as possible. So provide a little bit, let them say yes or no, and provide a little bit more. If you provide too much, you can get into trouble because they see things and they start to ask questions. You can't really cross any of these things out. I mean, sure, it's entirely possible to modify documents. They know it, you know it. I wouldn't condone it on video, of course, but it's possible. But anyhow, that's what actually happened. So the moral of the story is, I think, if you're going to, if you think you're going to buy a house soon or a large transaction where you need to have proof of funds, you can close out the account. The account being closed wasn't the issue. It was really just that you couldn't get the statement for it. Maybe print off your statements as needed or something like that. And then you could keep hunting. I don't think you have to stop and literally leave your money in one spot. It's just, if you're going to do this, which is, I don't do this often, just get the statements so you have them and then you're covered. But in hindsight, I probably should have thought about it, but I did try to avoid it by slowly giving them statements that we finally got to the point of verifying the money. But anyways, it was kind of a funny story. Obviously, we got it done in the end, but there you go. Bank promotions have almost cost me out, but not in the way you think. Nothing to do with check systems, nothing to do with opening and closing them. So anyways, funny story. That is today's tale from the bank. So let me know down below what you thought. If you have any stories similar to this, I know some of you guys are active out there in the bank promotion game. And if you're not, definitely check us out over on Run on the Bank and ProfitableContent.com, because you can literally build up your down payment if you're into a house or something, car, whatever it may be, through bank promotions. A lot of that money was from bank promotions, believe it or not. So maybe I'll do that story one day. But anyhow, guys, that's going to do it for this one. So, of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. So we're posting content just like this every single week. And, of course, every single Sunday right back here with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And, of course, every single day over on ProfitableContent.com. As we've said, the channel's blog. We have the latest news stories. We have bank promotions, just like the ones we're talking about, and credit card offers. So if you want to get started, well, you know the place to be. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.